All right, all right. Welcome to the fourth episode of Warrior Week, Parables from the Pit. My guest today is Mr. Troy Hoffman. Troy, how you doing, man?
Doing excellent. Great to be here, man.
All right. Hey, glad to have you here. So, Troy, you're actually local to us here down in Newport, right?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. So Troy is here, and we're going to have our conversation today about single life. Yep, those single men that are out there that want and desire to not be single and build families in life. That's the story of Troy. Troy is going to tell us where he came from and how he has been struggling with this. And inside of that, we're going to take Troy to his pit, and we're going to have conversations from the pit and parables from the pit. And I have no doubt, man, that with your pit, knowing your pit and how deep and wide it is, that today you're going to impact thousands of men listening to this. So, Troy, why don't we just roll this back and talk to me about your experience coming into to Warrior, just simply being exposed to Warrior as a conversation, and then from there finding yourself in the first night of your Warrior Week in your pit, and what was that feeling? What was your pit then when you came into your first Warrior Week and eventually your second Warrior Week as you experienced it not too long ago? So why don't we start just there, Troy?
So I was lucky enough to have another guy that actually went through Warrior introduce me to this, and he literally one day was wearing a band. I was like, hey, what's this? And he's like, Wake Up Warrior. And he started explaining to me what Warrior was, and he didn't do a great job at all, by the way. He's like, just go watch some videos. This guy Garrett's crazy. This guy Sam's crazy. Go check it out. And I ended up actually turning on the first video around like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Next thing I know, 4 or 5 in the morning, there's so much content out there that I actually filled out the form and said, yes, I want to go to this, whatever this crazy ass thing called Warrior Week was, I'm going. I saw something in these guys that I was like, I'm missing this intensity in my own life. I'm missing this focus. I'm missing the passion. I'm missing the tough side of me. I had the business side down. I had a lot of the health side down going at that point. Had a lot of other things going, and I didn't have the relationships down though. So I saw the families, and I was like, wow, like these guys like Michael G. Isom were some of the videos I watched. AZ, saw him, and I was like, wow, how do I get a life like this next? And that was kind of the next focal point, is like, how do I become tougher? And how do I start creating a life of true balance? And how do I find the right girl? And I was dating like crazy at this time, you know, still. And so that's when I found Warrior, and I signed up. And I was kind of starting to date this girl and just starting to connect with her. We're about 4 or 5 months in when I found Warrior, and I'd been spending about the last 3-4 years just Tindering like crazy. So,
sure.
And just trying to find the love of my life. So that's going to be
And so how old are you today, man?
42 years old.
42. So when you came to Warrior was what, a year and a half ago, a year ago?
Yeah, a year and a half ago, about 40. I was about to turn 41.
So here you are, 41, good-looking guy, 41, sharp, yet not yet connected to the one person that you want to build your life with. Not the person you want to be with. A lot of people want to be with someone. Here in this conversation of Warrior, we changed that to building a life with someone. You see, being with someone and living with someone or building a life with someone is very different. Building a life requires a level of commitment that is going all in on every aspect of your life. Financially, emotionally, there's no holding back 20% just in case this relation doesn't work. There is no holding back at all. Finances get merged, hearts get merged, and you build the foundation for the future, for your kids, for your children, and happiness that transcends through you and comes through those kids so they can grow up and being happy adults. So let's talk about that, because that's precisely what you were missing, right? Underneath this, okay, I want to be with someone, there is deep level of pain of, hey man, what the fuck? I'm 41. I'm fucking 41 right now, and I want to fucking experience fatherhood. And I want to experience ownership of relationship. I want to be deeply in love. I want a companion 24 hours 7. I get the rest of it. But these are the desires that deep down inside, knocking at the door while you're watching those videos, there is a deeper level of pain that says, okay, yeah, there's a tough side of me that needs to come out because I need to take care of some shit. But I need that tough side to toughen up so I can actually lead as a father and as a husband. So talk to me about those feelings, Troy.
You know what? I really haven't dove that deep into this and never really vocalized this yet, I think, in out loud. And the fact even Sam's bringing it up, the magic of Warrior. There's no point ever in Warrior where you're not being challenged, you're not being forced to excel. And Sam is even putting me in the spot today because he knows this is what I need for my growth. This is why Warrior is so powerful. And that first day I showed up is like the level of commitment in my life across all areas just was not there. And one thing in Warrior exposed was the fact I was not committed to my body. I was not committed to my mindset. I was not committed to my company. I was not committed to a depth of understanding of who I was or executing on that with one girl. I was playing, I was screwing around. I was not a dedicated man. I was not dedicated to myself first, and I never would be able to be dedicated to somebody else with the lack of commitment to my own personal growth. And Warrior, the beauty of Warrior is it creates this frame and this environment for you to choose what you need to do. May you make the decision. It's not preaching any one specific thing, but it's saying what decision you need to make. And the first night I went to Warrior, I was scared shitless standing in the line. We had to line up before the Warrior Week even started that night. And there was like 20 of us guys in this line. And one guy had like a gray shirt on and all hell dropped on him. Because they were very explicit and very clear, all black, all black, all black. And one guy had a gray shirt and everything started pounding from there. And they started yelling at us. And the intensity and the focus is like immediately I was just scared as shit. And then we had to go and quote Invictus. And I mean, I could just see the guys that were the toughest guys in the military, guys that were incredibly in shape, run giant companies, done a lot in their life. They were even shaking because the intensity and the environment. And as we're quoting Invictus, you could hear people stuttering. And then Sam would grab us and put us in this box and call it the pit. It was the first time I was really exposed to a physical pit in this context of Warrior, and we weren't allowed to get up until we gave not a seminar answer what we wanted for our life, but what we wanted out of that week. And I could not give Coach Sam an answer. I got sent down 3 times to go bury myself in the sand, literally dig in the sand and cover myself up. And if I couldn't do, he sent other men to go bury me in the sand and then come back. Because Sam's committed to getting an outcome no matter what. And I loved the fact that it came up. I just wanted to be tougher at that moment.
So let's talk about, I recall you going back into the pit and coming and going, and it's not a physical challenge to be inside of the fucking pit, but it's an emotional roller coaster. But at the same time, it is an environment where you're totally exposed. There's nowhere to fucking hide. And inside of that space, the only thing that you can look at is where you are in your life right now. And deep down inside, what is the purpose, the reason why are you even considering change and transformation in your life?
At that moment, I knew I just needed to be tougher. I needed to be tougher in all areas of my life. I needed to, and mostly on myself, and hold myself to a commitment, value myself, to push myself. And that's what the last 18 months of Warrior has even done, is push me to really step up in my game. Like, I work out every day. I do fight training now, anywhere from 1 to 7 days a week, depending on my travel schedule. And I am in boxing. I am doing Muay Thai kickboxing. I'm doing the MMA stuff I never would have done if it wasn't for Warrior.
Yeah.
I grew up surfing. I grew up wakeboarding. I was not into fighting that much, and so Warrior brought that side of me out, and the commitment to be just tougher, which ended up turning into every other area of my life, being more committed to my company, being tougher with people, holding them to a standard because I now could hold myself to a standard.
So, witnessing your growth from this exposure to the reality that for the first time in your life at 41. Somebody's holding a mirror in front of you, and there's no I'm gonna go to the right, go to the left, up, down. Like, I have to face the man in front of the mirror. Facing the man in the mirror wasn't an easy thing for you because what you were seeing was not something that you liked. And yes, at the beginning, I recall you wanted to be tougher, but at the end of the day, You just wanted to accept yourself more. And so talk to me about your growth phase ever since that experience that exposed you. Because here's what we teach at Warrior. Once a man is exposed, and this process happens during Warrior Week, when you are exposed, you are getting a sense of clarity that you've never experienced because this exposure brings you to a place where you truly understand where you are in your life right now, and the justification and the assumptions and all your fucking alpha attitude and ego doesn't do justice at that point. The only thing that you are facing is the reality of your life, and facing yourself in the mirror and getting a clear idea of where you are inside of your body, physicalities, and how you're extracting power from that, and how you're extracting power from your connection with God and your children and your wife, and how are you extracting power in your business, in your line of work, in your production. Questions like that, giving you a sense of percentage and a number of where you're at. So for most people, very easy inside of body and business to identify that, just like Troy. Very easy to measure yourself inside of your body. Very easy to measure yourself inside of your business. Look at your bank account. Look at your performance in sports. Look at your weight. Anything. Muscle mass, you name it. When it comes down to spirituality, your connection with God, the source, the universe, whatever the fuck you want to call it at this point. But that special connection, I call it God. Like, how can you measure your connection with God today? Where you at today? Connection with your wife and your kids. How can you measure yourself? What metrics do you have today in your hand? If you're listening to this and you're watching this, the question is simple. What metrics do you have in your hands right now, other than your own assumption and justification, to identify where you're at in your marriage and where you're at in your relationship with your kids? Because, brother, I can tell you, if you go to your bank account today, you can see the exact number. But if you go into your heart and you start looking for this, there's a way for you to see the exact number. But you have to know how. So, Troy, talk to me about how you were able to measure those two components. Because in your body and your business, I get it, and you thrived. And then everything changed for you from a perspective of relationship. From a perspective of relationship, everything changed for you. And from a connection to the voice, this deep understanding of what the voice is and trusting yourself and listening to the voice. Talk to me how life changed once you got clarity and measurement in terms of where you are in your relationship so that you know where you want to go. And the certainty that came in the past 18 months for you to execute this.
It's a good question. It's really a lot of like being challenged by multiple people from multiple angles. And for me to have multiple mirrors being put in front of me and seeing like, man, where am I lacking? Where am I just full of shit? And as Sam was talking, the only thing that came up was like, I don't know who said it, but king of the shitheads. And until you're put in an environment, I feel like, and I was put in an environment where I was finally faced with all these challenges. It wasn't just one area of life. It's like the whole spectrum being poured on you at once. And I think it's driven me to step up in ways that I don't think I would have stepped up. And it's driven me to be more accountable to myself and also realizing how much full of shit I was in this area. In relationships and how little clarity I really did have. I'm a great talker, but when it came to truth and clarity in my own life, I couldn't even find that. I could almost help other people find it better than I could find it myself. I could see it in others, but I couldn't see it in myself. And I like the constant pouring of Warrior basically in my life to say, okay, what can I actually do in this area? And then the direct challenges. Like when you get around guys that are clear in all four of these areas, that have been in Warrior or something like this, that can really challenge you and ask you pointed questions that are deep and hard to answer. And then you see your physical reaction back to them. What is your body really saying? And what is your spirit inside you saying at the same time as they pull it out of you? And the process of being pulled out is fucking painful. It's just painful sometimes.
So I'm going to ask you a question, direct question, just right now, right here. As you know, you relive your fucking pit right here. And this is a real conversation. This is not promotion for Warrior Week. This is not how fucking Warrior is great. This is a conversation between Sam and Troy about pain in life. So, Troy, I'm going to ask you a big fucking question right now. What is your biggest pain right now in your life?
Biggest pain right now in my life. You know what? I was talking just today or this week or whatever.
Just right now, man.
Man, I think it's dealing head-ons with the battles with a lot of people around me now, because I'm really, for the first time, stepping up and demanding more from others as I've been demanding stuff for myself. And so there's a lot of constant battles. Actually, my relationship for the first time is going really fantastic with my queen. Like, it's like really getting on point, and we had a really a true shit show 4 months ago or whatever, because sometimes you get so empowered.
Troy,
go for it.
What is your biggest pain today? Take a deep breath and just figure out what's your biggest pain today, man.
Biggest pain today. I feel like I've got a lot in some areas, but it's like it's battling some very specific people head on right now, Sam.
And so, are you afraid of these collisions, or are you ready for these collisions, or do you welcome them? You don't? Like, what's the feeling around it, man?
I think the feeling is like I don't have all the answers to solve even within the collisions right now.
Okay.
And I have to really trust the voice and really trust the power I'm coming from. And it's the first time I've actually started battling at this level in my life. And it was one thing, like I actually went through another experience here where Coach Garrett, and one night he literally slammed me and slammed a mirror and cut his hand, and he's like, "You're just a pussy who won't lead from the front." It's the first time I'm really stepping up at a higher level of leadership to lead from the front.
Okay,
and,
so
it's
so
tough,
my
dude.
biggest pain is that I'm still a pussy that is not leading from the front. Is that true?
Possibly in some areas, but I think it's more like I'm still worried about how people feel, or the rejection side of it.
Beautiful.
If that makes sense.
Beautiful. And we're going to talk about that incident. We're going to talk about that day where you were here in the office and the sacrifices of Garrett, what he's done. And like, we're going to talk about that. I want you to tell that story as it was. Like, I want you to paint the story of that day. But before we go there, I'm going to ask one more question and then paint the story. I'm going to come back and connect the dots. As a kid, what was your biggest pain? Whatever you can remember.
I think getting picked on, as a kid, like fifth grade in Texas, and then we moved to Florida. Again, not having friends, getting picked on, getting beat up, or being challenged in that area, and not being.
So, can you see the link?
Yeah.
Can you see the link between the wounds that you took, that you're like still up today, you're carrying as a child, and the wound of that adult version of that child?
Correct.
It's crazy. This is not some fucking level of psychotherapy, or this is simply a conversation of observation. Like, the beauty of observation is to see things, not to necessarily look for fucking things. Most people in observation, they will look for something, while others will see things. Inside of this, we just asked 2 questions. We weren't looking for a fucking specific answer. We didn't come on this fucking podcast saying, hey, this is the script, and I'm going to ask you these questions, and you give me an answer. We came in, and inside of this conversation, there was an observation. The wound that you had as a kid, and the wound that you're carrying as an adult today, and there's a link, and we saw something that possibly is the same fucking wounds, if not exactly the same fucking wounds. And so leadership and reparenting starts by reconnecting with the child within and fixing those wounds. Part of that is what Warrior did in awakening you in your journey in the past 18 weeks. Like 18 months ago, you were not the same guy sitting here. Not the same fucking posture. Definitely not looking to me like the amount of certainty that you're looking to me today. Like leadership to a point that I cannot recall seeing in you on day one at Chicken. I saw a scary guy that didn't know what the fuck he was doing and didn't know why he was even here. Wasn't clear at all. Today I see a very clear guy. I now know exactly the incident that took place in your life that brought you exactly where you are. And so we're going to talk about that specific story that took place with Garrett. And so just take us through that day and what impact that had on you and those that were around you. Because I know it had some deep impact on me.
We were supposed to write out something, some goal or some area of our life, and we're walking the block, which is the term used in Warrior for kind of like doing the stack, which is this Byron Katie stuff, and exposing the bullshit stories in your life. And I had some very seminar answer going, and Garrett looked at me as clear as fucking day, and he's like, here's the truth. You're just a fucking pussy who won't lead from the front. You're not a shitty leader. You're just a pussy who won't lead from the front. And then he physically grabbed me like this, dragged me in front of the mirror, and he said, look at this guy and say I'm a fucking leader who will lead from the front, and just say and scream it. And it was one of those moments where it just breaks, and it's like I will step up for the fucking first time to lead and believe I can actually be that fucking leader. And then Garrett starts taking a coffee mug and smashing the mirror till the thing breaks. He's screaming at me and shaking me, telling me to say I'm a fucking leader who will lead from the front. I'm no longer a pussy. And he cut his hand so deep, blood's everywhere, and I could just feel the first time that was like almost, I don't know how to say spiritual, but it was spiritual. Almost that moment was almost of like something dropped in me. It's like, okay, this is who you are, Troy. This is who you need to become. This is why you're called to be here on this earth, is to help lead and impact others' lives, no matter fucking what. And if this guy's willing to cut himself and bleed all over the floor, you have got to honor that and step the fuck up. And it was one of those magical God moments.
So inside of that, the gift that you got is the recognition that the most beautiful and the most expensive currency that one can have in the world is the currency of impact, having impact on others. And the impact starts by having an impact on yourself. Because too often we think that we're not worth it. Everybody else is, but we're not. I don't know why. You and I are in the same age. You and I are formatted the same way. We were brought up the same way. Our dads did the same things. They were great guys, but at the same time, they didn't have a fucking blueprint. We both carry wounds. We both carry this idea of unfulfilled child. And I don't know if ever that child will be fulfilled, but I know that there's a path and a process to feel that we are worth it and feel that we can lead, because once you are certain about your leadership, everything changes about you. And I witnessed that in you, man. I witnessed that. Today, you are a leader. This incident didn't take place that long ago. It was just a couple of months ago.
4 or 5 months ago.
Where are you today?
Even from that moment, I never saw myself as a leader. I always just work with other people. I'm not the real point person, the first time I say, fuck, I am the point person. I've got to own every problem, every situation in my life personally, and then all the people around me, no matter what. And as the first time I felt it was almost like I've got to step up as a leader. This is what I'm called to do, is really lead, and that's helping by serving others as a servant leader. It doesn't matter what the fuck it was. I just knew I had to step up in my own company, step up in my own life, step up in my own relationships, and realize this is who I've been built to be, and I can actually live this, and I needed that permission. I needed somebody else to call it out of me and point it out and say, this is who you are, and I believe in fucking you, and I needed somebody somewhere to really push that, and that was a moment that occurred.
Most people, at least surrounding you, will never have the courage to tell you those words. you're seen as the powerful guy inside of, like, the owner of the company, the man that walks in inside of your neighborhood, the guy that grew up down here. Like, there is a reputation that follows, and there is a tremendous amount of respect that comes with that. So most people would just not tell you that. And you won't let them tell you that. Neither would any other fucking alpha out there, powerful one. But deep down inside of this, there's a deep level of trust allowing you to simply be exposed to who truly you are, your greatness and as well as your weakness. And that humbleness comes in from a place of feeling pain. So you felt pain, Troy, in your pit when you came to Warrior Week. But it's just not in Warrior Week that we feel pain. And it's not only inside of the pit at Warrior Week that pain happens. Pain comes and it's like a fucking fog that surrounds us and paralyzes every sense of our fucking being. There are kind of pains that can actually take us, like, operationally out. Pain that breaks our heart. And one of the saddest incidents that took place this past year was when you lost your father. And with your permission, I want to go there tonight, and I want to talk about that. And here's how I want to talk about this, bro. You see that chair right over there? I want you to feel your dad present sitting with us in this podcast. And we're going to have a conversations from the pit. Because it's one thing to know your pit, but what about his pit? Like, we weren't even aware that there's a fucking pit. Now that we have this concept and this idea that every man, every woman has a pit, like, how can I feel his pit? How can I imagine his pit? So talk to us about your dad.
My dad passed away October 31st, actually 2016 now, Sam. And he chose to exit the earth. And he was sick his entire life. Didn't have a lot of guys that he was tight with or friends with. Was a brilliant man, a chiropractor, neurologist, internal medicine, clinical nutritionist, built a huge clinic, impacted a lot of people's lives. But I don't think he had an outlet of his own or a way they knew he had to deal with his own challenges in life. The pain of dealing with relationships and raising kids and being sick and being really sick his entire life. And, you know, he chose to tap out, Sam. And
yeah. And so when he did that, where that left you?
You know, it's definitely, I was almost in some ways relieved for him because of the pain and the suffering he went through in his life in some aspects of his health. It was really bad. Couldn't breathe, couldn't walk, couldn't go 5 feet anymore. But it was sad the way, you know, it all happened. And it left me going, like, okay, the realization of, like, I think the one realization is, like, how lucky I was to have him in my life, how lucky I have for the family, but it left a wake in the family and kind of allowed me to step up too. I hate to say it, but, like, realize I don't have a dad anymore. I'm now the man in my life.
Would you say that you know exactly his pit? Would you say that you've seen his pit? Did you ever went in his pit? What kind of question would you ask him, man?
Did you ever feel you were good enough to yourself? Did you ever feel like you really did impact all those people's lives and the impact you had? Can you really see that all you did and gave really did help others? Do you see how great you actually were in your life and how much you were loved? I think it would be some of the questions, and I almost want to tell him, like, you know, hopefully you knew that. Hopefully you knew how much you impacted people's lives and gave to people in their lives and how much people honored and respected you to the nth degree for the things you've done and how you helped heal them and guide them in the path of healing their own bodies and minds and spirits over your lifetime because of your pit, because of your health issues, you know? I think that would...
What do you think was your dad's biggest pain? Not from like a physical, like just
I think
knowing
marriage.
life now, knowing life.
Marriage.
Yeah, I get that. But
Marriage.
where was he? Like, what is one thing that you would say after like experiencing yourself and seeing inside of this game and the awareness journey that you've been part of? What is the one thing that caused him, like the major pain that your dad was carrying in his pit?
Not seeing himself probably as good enough to one easily.
Yeah.
Like his mom's even told him when he was a kid, like, hey, you know, these are high school pictures. They look terrible. You know, I mean, like all these things. And like, I don't think his self-image, you know, I mean, like it's brilliant. When he became a chiropractor, my grandmother was like, oh, you're not a real doctor. And then when he became a doctor, then she was finally proud of him, you know, and actually got the internal medicine thing and all that type of stuff. And I don't think he ever felt good enough, you know.
Do you think your dad, although not socially alone, but do you think your dad felt that he's alone, like operating alone?
I think he was operating alone. He was a soul surfer. Like he'd go out surfing every day with kind of some guys that would be there, but never really any buddies. And it was just connected with my mom. And I think his greatest pain was how to build that loving, tight relationship. And they would fight a lot over time, on and off, quite a bit in my life. You know what I mean? And they fought a lot. And there's always that tension. I think he just didn't know how to deal with it or what to do or how to do things. He went to the courses, read the books, but for some reason I don't think he had an outlet ever of like having a buddy to go hang out and talk with and be like, okay, here's the shit going on in my life. And somebody just kept going and dealing with it. And I feel like it's that generation of guys too. I've talked to a lot of other buddies where their dads were just soldiers. They just fucking woke up, went to work, came home, dealt with the shit. And I think at some point, I think part of that was some of the challenges he had too, causing more stress in his life.
If you would have right now, right here, raw conversation with your dad, you know, what would you say? Like, what would you say he didn't leave behind for you? What is the one thing that you wanted him to leave behind for you? It's not a question of blame. It's just conversation of.
You know what? He did a lot. I think more teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like he did a good job showing by living. He lived a lifestyle that was enviable in some ways. Like he really tried to be loving to my mom. He really tried to build a great clinic. He really tried to take care of his patients, take care of his employees, and we'd do projects on weekend and build boat docks and learn how to fix engines as kids and like everything. But he didn't teach a lot or talk or explain the emotional side of life and how to deal with it. And we never really talked about finances and the emotional side of life. And like, here's his perspective, what he learned how to deal with life. He never really said much.
Sure.
You know, and it wasn't really I didn't have coaching from him. What I ended up seeking was coaching from the world when I really would have loved it from him.
Beautiful. And so everybody else came first and he came last.
100%.
And I want to share with you the story of my father. And then bridge the two together and just tell you that your father, my father, they're not different. The patterns and the behaviors embedded in them makes them in a way that they operate alone today. And the pain that they carry, it's a pain that is unspoken. Is a pain that is unrevealed. It's a pain that is not discussed with our moms, with the brothers, with the sisters, with our son. It's a pain that is not discussed with another man. It's an old fucking pain, bro. An old fucking pain. And I'm going to tell you a story so that you can see like what I'm talking about when I say pain. Taking myself back to my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Like right around 8 or 9. I was living in Iran at that time. And there was the war between Iran and Iraq. And it was really bad. I'm not going to get to the details of that. Perhaps we can get it to another story. But let's just put it this way. That kids were being recruited at ages of 8. To literally go in the front line within a month and carry like M16s and act as bodies.
Wow.
And soldiers in exchange for a fucking key of heaven, a concept that it was created by the government so that they can win your heart using religion, meaning go become a martyr and we give you the keys of heaven.
Wow.
Can you imagine that at fucking 8-year-old, how
That's crazy.
how easily you are brainwashed to this concept?
Yeah.
So inside of that, my dad felt that. My dad felt that things are getting really horrible. And we went through some experiences that manifested that to him. There was some experiences with myself for a period of, like, I don't want to go to the fucking details, but there was some experiences with myself for about 6 months where this has, like, code red for my dad. And I want to take you back and paint the picture of who my dad was. My dad at that time was a vice president of an electronic company, and 2,000 people reported to him. So inside of that, we had the good life, right? We had the nice house, the cars, and all kind of, like, people serving us and supporting us, and like, it's just, I want you to imagine a great fucking life.
Correct.
Both financially and as well as emotionally, as well as, like, respected. And so he sacrificed all that only to find himself 9 months later delivering fucking pizza in Canada, $2 an hour. And I'm going to connect the dots. He felt the threat, and he felt that we needed to get out of that country. My uncle was in Canada. So through a series of arrangements, we escaped the country. And we find ourselves in Singapore, where we were waiting for our travel documents. And we lived in a hotel for 3 months. My dad sold everything. Everything that we sold in exchange of the dollar at that time, because of the war, it was crazy. It was like ratio of 1 to 15. So everything that we owned came down to like 15 or 20,000. Something that could have been like $500,000 transcended into like $15,000, out of which a majority of that was going to the people that were arranging the paperwork. And so for 3 months, we lived in this fucking hotel in Singapore. I remember we were eating rice every single day in the hotel, and my mom was cooking that. Now, I was a kid, and it was an awesome fucking time.
We lived in the hotel for 3 months, too, and my dad finished chiropractic school. We were so broke. We lived in a one-room Motel 8, and I can still point to that room.
Dude, I'm telling you, for me, it was a great experience because there was the pool downstairs.
The pool was great.
I was going to 7-Eleven. We didn't have fucking 7-Eleven, so it was a new concept. Like bananas and small bananas and all kind of tropical fruits. Yes. All that shit was prohibited at that time in where I was living for some bullshit fucking reasons. But in summary, I find myself in the hotel for 3 months, and I look back at this like I'm feeling this right now, and it's and I'm seeing this, and I'm seeing we crossed Singapore, we went to Malaysia, and it was with we drove in the middle of the jungles, and if I put myself in his place today, carrying my 2 kids in the middle of a fucking jungle from one country to another one, looking for some paperwork that may or may not be there, so that we can take the next flight and find ourselves in Italy, and from there finally to Canada. Like, I would be scared as fuck. Yes. Yet my dad went all in. And we find ourselves in Canada. And 2 weeks later, on his fucking toes, delivering pizza. Delivering pizza. His ego, what do you think his ego was? Down to his feet. His heart was happy because he got us out of there. But we can't deny the pain of that man. We can't deny the destruction of what he's constructed most of his life. Correct. And yet living for the past 20 years in conditions that are very average, if not, like, dude, I remember it was so fucking bad. Like, it was so fucking bad that on every Tuesday night, we would drive around at night and go and, like, look at other people's garbage to see what toys they left out or what couches are there for us to take. And I'm not fucking afraid of saying this. And I'm not ashamed of that. I'm not. Because these are the sacrifices that my dad did. Correct. That my family did, that I was a witness of it. I can never forget this shit. It's not funny. It's not shameful. Yeah, I did pick up some other toys, and they were fucking awesome at that time because I didn't have anything.
We did the same thing. My dad was so broke when he started his first clinic, had to pay for everything himself. We actually pulled our lawnmowers out of someone else's trash and fixed those. And like it was the same thing. He was starting his business from scratch. It got ripped off in a business. He had to start from scratch. He was doing electrical work on the side. Even being a chiropractor at night, he was doing electrical work.
Yeah. So then you're this dad, right? Sitting in the car and like watching this taking place. That your kid's actually taking toys in the garbage to play with. And the life is hard. And then you're no longer the man that you were, both financially and as well as the status of where you were in living. But you did sacrifice all this for the safety so that we can have a chance at this life. Mm-hmm. We meaning myself and my brother. And then go through the hardest conditions for the past 20 years. Like just fucking from delivering pizza to working in a restaurant to finally working on a taxi and just a limousine and just the hard life, man. And all the way to success as well. You know, owning a rug shop and selling rugs and just traveling and import and export. But it took 28 years of fucking hard work. It's not even fucking hustle. Nowadays, everybody like to use the word hustle. Young entrepreneurs, I hustle. Everybody wants to hustle. I'm a fucking hustler. Motherfucker, you know who the hustler is? The hustler is the guy that's fucking delivering pizza for his kids so he can bring some decent amount of food on the table for the kids. That's true hustling.
Yes.
That is true hustling. The hustler is the guy that is in the front line fighting war so that you motherfucker can drink cognac in the bar and have the freedom to do that.
Yes.
The hustler is the guy in the front line. The hustler is not a guy that knows how to fucking make money on the internet or marketing this and that. Fuck you and that hustler. So yeah, you can go ahead and subscribe to all these fucking podcasts that talks about marketing and sales and how to be a fucking hustler and how to have the motivation to fucking do this. But there's one fucking thing that you're doing inside of all this, and that is you're fucking denying the pain inside. The pain both as a child and what you witnessed in your dad and the pain that your dad is carrying today if he's alive. And if it's not, just like your dad, what he took with him to the ground.
He took the pain.
He took his pit down there.
100%. By himself, without any brothers, without anybody involved in his life at this level. Imagine if your dad had somebody to talk to.
Simple. And what if that person would have been you? What if that person would have been me?
What's a gift we could have gave those guys, being what we know now, what we've seen and what we've experienced?
Bingo.
But the gift they gave us of growing up in poverty is one of the greatest gifts.
Bingo.
And most of the guys, a lot of guys in this podcast, a lot of guys out there can understand that. It's a gift of not having a lot of money. A lot of parents, a lot of kids grow up with parents that don't have a lot. My parents didn't have a lot of money. I lived in a laundry room when I was a little kid. Yeah. My dad rode a bicycle to do electrical work when he started out from scratch, you know, and my mom, you know, she did whatever she could to make money. And we had one car literally with a hole in the ground. And I think that gift of the pain also produces this future for us so we can impact more lives. And it gives us that opportunity to appreciate things and drive and go farther. And I feel like and partially I'm grateful for that gift and that legacy they left in us. They showed the dedication. They showed us like how you can live and survive, but not just survive. They wanted more for us, and they put that energy into us to send us out to impact more life. Sam, you would not be here today if your dad did not sacrifice at that level. How do you feel about that?
You know what yeah.
How much responsibility do you feel now inside of you because of the gift your dad gave you by sacrificing his life for you?
Yes.
How did that drive you today so you can go and impact that? I mean, Sam, if you guys don't know Sam Falsafi, this guy gives more than anybody with more heart and more passion. He's texting people. He's not coaching. He's not getting paid from half the people he's texting, half the people he's on the phone with, trying to help out. Sam goes above and beyond even when you're way out of his life to help anybody help improve their life no matter what now. And that gift inside of you, and I am so grateful for your dad, and I honor your dad for giving you that legacy to make you the man you are today, Sam.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, I got some tears fucking forming in my eyes. And I'm not fucking afraid of my tears, man. My tears have come down many times just like your tears. But the reality is, you're right, man. You're right. You're absolutely fucking right. It is witnessing his sacrifices that has empowered something in me. And I can sit with my dad today and I can tell him, like, hey, talk to me about your pain. And it's not going to be easy for him. But I can find a way to lead him to his pit and allow him to open up and begin the conversations with me. Because I've learned the ways now. 4 years ago, I didn't know. I didn't know what the fuck my pain was. Today, just right now in this podcast, in this conversation, I'm more wiser than I was. Just because of the gift that you give me, and that is by being a witness of the sacrifices that your dad did, you've gained power from that. And I was talking about this in the past show, is that as children and as kids, we mirror our parents' energy. It doesn't matter what they hide or what they show. We'll pick it up anyway. We'll pick up their energy. So you and I are sitting here proud of our dads for what they've done, but at the same time knowing that they have pain. Your dad's pain is carried in the pit right now in the ground. But he's with us here sitting and listening to this conversation.
Yes.
And my dad's pain is still in him, and I have the opportunity to lead him to his pain, and so he can open up and we can have a conversation. And so I see myself as this 41-year-old guy that is 100% responsible for what I choose to fucking lead. And that includes my dad.
What does that look like, Sam? If you could tell me what that looks like, leading your dad, opening your father up. Because, I mean, how many people want to be able to connect with their dads who just can't?
So here's the structure, right? You either had a dad that you hate, or you either had a dad that you love most of your life and is a great guy. It's either or. You can have some people in between as well. But ultimately, it's either he was never there. I don't even know who the fuck my dad is. So I'm looking for some father figure personality in my life. Mm-hmm. Or that I knew my dad, but I never knew his pit.
Yeah.
Right? I never knew his pit until maybe this conversation here. So if you're sitting at home and listening to this, or you're watching this show and you have a great relationship with your dad, that's awesome. And you're like, hey, listen, bro, like, dude, me and my dad are fucking solid. Like, we are fucking solid. We talk about shit. We talk about everything. We are fucking solid. I would say good for you. But I got one fucking question. Do you truly know your dad's pain? Do you know what his pit is? And the answer to that is simple. If you don't know your own pit, chances are you have no fucking idea about your dad's pit, and sometimes even our wife's pit. But we're going to stick with the dad topics. Knowing someone's pit, meaning that you must go to their pit and visit and feel the pain. I feel the pain at every single fucking man coming to Warrior Week, because I take myself into your pit. I took myself into your pit. And I feel the pain. And I can talk about that place. I haven't gone to my dad's pit yet because he didn't take me. All I'm doing is I'm watching it here in the presence of your dad, and in this energy, in this space, in this location. I'm just seeing that yes, I can lead my dad. I can lead my dad. I can allow him to take me to his pit so I can feel his pain and open up to him, and not just have the checklist that I have with my dad, which is I love you, you're great, this is fun, let's do this, let's that, and no, but other conversations where I can serve him, because he still is serving me, man. So how can I serve him? And it's not a financial service. How can I serve my dad? How can I lead my dad? Because I lead my wife and my kids. So if you're at home and you're listening to this conversation, and your relationship with your dad is awesome, or your relationship with your dad is so-so, ask yourself the same fucking question. Have you been to your dad's pit? Do you know his pain? Has he taken you there? And most of you would say, why the fuck would I even want to know this? Because, motherfucker, that's your dad.
And you want the opportunity while you have it. You want to have that connection where you have it. Don't consider this last day. I was grateful. I sat. This guy, Mark Moses, was teaching at an entrepreneurs organization conference and talking about goals and all this other shit. But one thing, Mark is really clear on his family goals. And one of the goals he had was going to Europe with his dad. This is 2-3 months before all this went down. And I was grateful enough to hear Mark and go home about 2 or 3 other times before my dad passed away, and even a few weeks before he even passed away. I actually went home and took a whole road trip to go look at the old house where we grew up in South Florida, and took my mom, and we stopped by and visited some of his friends. And I remember even him dropping him off at my airport with my mom, with this weird feeling of like, hey, this could be the last time I see him. And it was just something that showed up and flared up. But I was grateful that a guy like Mark Moses at that moment, and I heard him, he's like, take the opportunity to spend with your parents because you won't regret it. And I even told my brother, go drive up and see my dad when he was trying to go up in North Carolina to try to get some peace and quality and be able to try a different way of healing himself. And I told my brother, just go, take time, go spend time with dad, right? And if we didn't take that moment, we would not have that moment to almost say, in some way, we said goodbye.
Yeah.
And that was for us. And like, but these moments, like they go by so fast if you don't seize them. What are you going to do? Fucking watch Netflix and then another series? Are you going to spend your time wasting getting drunk somewhere or avoiding connecting with your family? The one thing that people regret is not connecting with their loved ones. The one thing that people regret is not being able to say goodbye, not being there on their deathbed. I was lucky enough to be on my grandmother's deathbed that she took her last breath because I was committed to this process. I'm committed to the family and committed to, but I never knew how to be enough of a man to really connect with my dad's pit and really connect with who he was at a super deep level. I didn't even know how to connect with him at that level. And I wish I had something like this. Some people talking about saying, how the fuck do you connect with your parents on their deeper levels? For those who do not open up. And a lot of dads do not open up, unfortunately. And so how the hell do you connect at a deeper level? And I challenge you today, if you're still listening to this right now, to take time to go connect with your dad. Tell him what Sam said, the top things. I love you, thank you, whatever it is, but then connect with their pain. Because I never was able to connect to my dad and know really what made him tick. How did he do things? What was his problems? How did he deal with it? How did he solve it? Because that is something, that energy that Sam talked about, it goes right on you. And either you find a way to transform that, the good stuff and the bad stuff, or you don't. And I see that in my own brother right now, being the silent soldier, battling 18 hours a day, running, taking care of his wife, taking care of his kids. And my passion right now is to get my brother free so he can have a 10x better life than he ever imagined or my dad imagined, and somehow using warrior style stuff as a vehicle. So
yeah, it's beautiful, and I've met your brother at the conference, right? Great guy. Which brings us to this conversation of father and son relationships are so fucking important that for so many years we have systematically been sedated to the pain that our dad carries, and it is passed on. And so all the effort inside of this conversation tonight between me, you, your dad, and inside of this dialogue that all of us are having here about father and son relationship has one fucking single purpose. And that is awaken something inside of me, you, and the audience that's listening to have a blueprint on how to operate with your own children. Don't carry your fucking pain in the pit through the rest of your life, thinking that they will not feel it. Thinking that they don't know it. Thinking that you're hiding it from them. They will feel this energetically. And they would know. Because something in there is not fulfilled for them. You may be a great dad. You may be an awesome dad that buys a lot of toys, that does everything for your kids. But the one thing that you're not telling them, which is your pain, is actually being felt by them. So you are pulling them inside of your pit without you even knowing. And what if you could change that? What if you could process this pain that you have inside of your pit? And what if you could actually become comfortable with the pain inside of the pit? And don't imprison yourself in the pit, but rather liberate yourself by being okay simply with the fucking pain. And often this pain is a feeling of guilt and shame of something that we have done or something that has happened to us. And that we carry this very deep into this place, in this dark fucking place called the pit. The pit that is so wide and so deep that sometimes we don't even know where we are inside of this darkness. But what if you would simply be okay with that pain and stop fucking hiding and stop fucking lying? And that one single action can break down the chain of systematic sedation of men that has taken place for the past 100 years. Where we've all become fucking pussies now. Because we can't talk about our pain, and so we toughen up. And we talk about our ability to shoot guns, fight MMA, and alphaing the fuck up. While pain is not something we talk about. Oh, if you talk about your pain, you're a fucking pussy. That's what we were told most of our lives. You're a little bitch if you talk about your pain. And the reality is, you're not doing your kids a fucking service if you carry the pain and don't tell them. Because they're gonna feel it, man. You don't need to tell them.
And the generational curse that occurs, if it does not transform and you stop it, is going to go to your kids and your children's children. And whatever that energy of not being good enough, not achieving enough, whatever the pain of like, I can't achieve something, I failed people, whatever that pain that they had somehow gets energetically transferred to us. However you want to look at this, spiritually, energetically, whatever it is, just from behavioral perspective, but what they are and what they were, somehow a part of that is in us, and how we use that energy now, we transform it in our own life and channel it, and so we do not pass it on to other people, the negatives, and we pass on the positives to other people.
Yeah.
So Sam, how is the process going for you? Like, how are you using this to transform your family in another way, knowing these things now you've learned from Warrior? How are you taking these principles from Warrior and the things you've learned, and it's not just Warrior, it's all these other things that Warrior just took and applied basically at a higher level than most people ever apply things, because Warrior does things on a daily basis. So what are you doing to take the pit of the past to transform the future?
For me, dude, like I'm not some fucking guru. We're not experts giving people fucking advice. Like, we just live this way. We just live this way. And 3-4 years ago when I walked into this, I had no idea about the pit and pain and the possibility outside of that and the truth, the power in truth. I mean, sure, I've read about it in books, but I never really understood that there is power in truth. First of all, I didn't even know what fucking power is. The only thing that I could come close to understanding was, okay, I guess if you have money, you're powerful. And I've experienced that a little bit. When you get a little bit more money, you're like, okay, I can buy this and that. So is that power? Is that true power? At least that was the version that I knew. So these conversation of truth, power, these are all generic fucking words that I didn't understand. And I speak 3 languages and I write 3 fucking languages. I didn't understand it in English. I did not understand it in French. And I did not understand it in Farsi. So it's not like I understood it in one language and I just did not understand the meaning of the truth. Did not understand the meaning of power. I did not. But I nodded my head like most people and saying, yeah, I get it. Yes, I get it. Yes, makes sense. Saying makes sense without actually feeling it, that's who I was. Today, if I don't understand something, it's like, listen, shut the fuck up. I don't understand it. So you either talk to me as in a language where I can understand, or you stop fucking bullshitting. And I'm not afraid to talk like, but I wasn't this guy fucking 4 years ago, bro. I was the kind of guy that would nod my head and say, yes, I understand. So
how is that translated into your family going forward in your life?
So I was coming to that is there was one particular incident that took place that I told the story in episode number 1, episode number 1, which was called "The Liar Within," and I tell the story of how I got this tattoo on my arm, the lion, the first tattoo that I got, and I take the audience in a detailed lie that I told that day, a very detailed and well planned lie. And the conversation that I had with Garrett that awakened me to the sense of that, hey man, I will never, ever, ever, ever again tell another fucking lie. Not to my fucking knowledge. Because, hey, I'm not fucking perfect. But I am super aware. If there is one thing in my life that is working, is my awareness of when I'm going to lie or not and stopping that shit. And that has helped me tremendously. That has shown the power to me. And I've fought many fights with friends, people from my community, my culture, and I've lost many friends. But what I can tell you, I've gained so many relationships like yours that are respectful on the base of truth. You can tell me something and I can download it as truth because there's tremendous amount of trust between me and you. Not because me and you, we go back in the days in the fucking bar and we used to be buddies and because a couple of guys jumped you and I backed you up. Not because like that kind of bullshit fucking loyalty that disappears when conversations of pussy and money comes into play. Test any fucking loyalty with pussy and money and you'll see what happens to it. But from a conversation of, hey man, I've been in your pit. You see, when another man goes in another man's pit, there's a deep level of trust and empathy. And that link cannot be broken. It dies with me. And so this links that I have with men like you, with brothers like you, empowers me. That's power. And I take these and I try to teach this to my son in a very fundamental way. I teach him what friendship is. I teach him that the concept of being popular at school. I teach him about all the pain that I had as a fucking reject when I was growing up. I teach him that those pains are fucking artificial and created. And that he can actually create his own reality. Now, again, I'm not talking to him in this language, but I am simplifying these. Why? Because I understand it. I understand it. 4 years ago, I would have fucking repeat that shit to him. I would have read a book and say, okay, this is what the book said. Okay, makes sense. The guy is a psychologist. 30 years in child development. Yes, 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 yes. And I would delegate my leadership to some subject matter expert. And I've learned that I don't need to delegate my leadership as a father and as a husband to any fucking subject matter expert. I respect subject matter expertise, but I refuse to delegate my power and my leadership to them just because I'm a fucking pussy.
You guys hearing this? This is the best content you're going to get as a dad right now. Sam, I mean, this stuff is fantastic. This is exactly what you just said right there is what I wish my dad would have done. Saying, okay, hey, when I was growing up and I was getting in fights, here's what I did. If I was growing up and I was dealing with dating, here's what I did. You know, you almost want that parent to be like that as you transform the next generation. Hear what Sam is saying, how he's transforming his son's life. And I've met his son. I've seen his son. I've seen his son go on stage and quote Invictus at, what was he? I don't even know. 7 years old in front of an audience of like hardcore men, all in these black shirts, just staring at this kid. And the kid did it on point. Out of the night that covers me. And he was like, boom, and everyone stood and clapped for this kid because of the fatherhood and the example Sam's setting. And this is how Sam said, it's so simple. Life's not complicated. It's about doing a lot of simple things that make it complex, but it's really doing the simple thing. Hey, when I was dealing with this, I was a retard as a kid. I was picked on. I was not normal because I came from Iran, and he's sharing with his son and something. Oh, wow. Thanks, Dad. And now his son's trusting that his dad's got wisdom and can help guide him, and he needs that. We all seek that.
And it's funny, when he was in that audience, most of the men that stood up and clapped for him were guys that actually fucking failed Invicta as their Warrior Week. So there was tremendous amount of respect there. Like, shit, bro, we fucking failed at this. So yeah, that was one of my proudest moments so far. And
Awesome.
I don't know if you recall when I went on stage and I hugged that dude. I broke in tears. I broke in tears, and I have that on video, and I'm so grateful for the babysitter that was there to take that on video. And, of course, Jeremy took that professionally, too, I found out later. But that's a beautiful asset that I have. And sometimes I just watch that. It's a 5-minute video. I watch him reciting Invictus, and I learn from him. And I learned from the tears that were dropped on the stage by me on his shoulder. As the tears were dropping from my chick to all the way to his shoulder as I was holding him, like, I learned from those that my relationship with my son is my relationship with my son. That I am his number one consultant for the rest of his life. That in life, he's going to have mentors, coaches, friends, any Tom, Dick, and Harry 5 seconds away today from their phone giving him advice, but he's always going to come to me for consultation. And I'm going to make sure that I become his number one advisor, his number one consultant. I'm going to become a fucking hustler as being a fucking dad. That's what I'm committed to. And being a hustler as a dad, it means I have to produce for my son. I have to produce for my family. And it doesn't matter how much money I produce. It matters that I actually produce and I lead. And I shared that in the last episode with Nick that was sitting here. It's something that Alex has shared with us, that, man, it doesn't matter if you're under a bridge living in a carton box with your family, or you're in a fucking castle. As long as you play with your kids and you love on your wife and you have happiness, because that's all they want. And most of us run after other things thinking that material will create happiness. And inside of that, don't take me away. Yes, money brings in structure. And yes, money takes away a lot of problem. But money is linked directly to the power that a man feels and the ability for him to produce. Not everybody is going to be a millionaire, but everybody can be a fucking producer. Every man can be a fucking producer. There's no fucking reason why a man cannot be a producer. And the only reason that a man is not producing, because he is not in power yet.
He only got connected with his truth, his why, and his pit.
So I want to, as we're coming to conclusion of this podcast, I want to honor your dad. And I want to honor your dad for being here with us and creating this space where you and I opened up and we just talked about, like, from our heart. And we shared the pains that we've gone and the solutions that we found around those pains and that we continue to seek. And I want to honor him by asking you one question. Mm-hmm. What is the proudest moment? What is the proudest story that you can tell us about your dad?
You know what? He taught me through his actions, and the one that I'm proudest of him for is I was like 12 or 13 years old. I was on an electrical job with him while I was building his first chiropractic practice, and I was putting in an overhead light, and I was screwing it in, and I dropped the whole overhead light with, like, the fluorescent light things you stick in the kitchen, and it cracked the tile. And he held me. And there was so many other work crews there. There were electricians. There were all the plumbers and all the people moving. I mean, there was the house is full of, like, this remodel, or they were building out a house. I don't remember exactly what it was. And I broke the tile floor. And he made me go to the guy that was in charge of the whole operation and tell him that I broke the tile floor, that I had to earn the money to fix it, to do it. And he held me accountable at that standard. Mm-hmm. And it set the standard of my life in a lot of ways. You fuck up, you fix it, no matter what. And I feel like that's the legacy he left in me.
That's a beautiful story, and that's what a gift. what a gift your dad has given you, and what a gift that you relived by telling this story. They say when we tell our story, we kind of hear our story, and we become the narrative of the next story. So leaving this place tonight and going home, you have a new story to write. I have a new story. That the gift that our dad has given us has empowered us and continues to empower us. Your dad has given you the gift of creating the highest standards and holding you accountable to those higher standards so that you operate with these higher standards and don't give yourself permission to ever operate anything lower. That's a structure and a guidance and love that came directly from your dad. And it's so powerful. So many people don't even have the opportunity to receive that. Most of their lives, they're looking for a father figure that can give him that. They would spend thousands of dollars and travel the world to look for mentor and coaches or someone that could guide him from what your dad has given you as a gift. And my dad has given me the gift of sacrifice. That sacrifice, what true sacrifice is. I felt it tonight. I've always felt it, but I felt it so deep tonight that by telling the story, the story became alive, and I have a new narrative for that story right now. And that story is, yes, that story is beautiful, but that story is empowering me. I extracted a lesson from that story tonight. And that is sacrifices he's done. He's put a seed in my heart to serve. And so I think because of your dad's presence tonight, we both got beautiful gifts, and we're going to do something with these gifts. Both you and I are going to do fucking something with these gifts. Because we don't just fucking download gifts here at Warrior. When we download something, we actually put it in production. And I'm going to go and I'm going to run something. I'm going to do something. I don't know what the fuck it is, but I'm going to do something with this gift. Because once again, I'm in a place of power. You want to talk about fucking power? I am in a place of fucking power right now. I am empowered. This is what power means to me. The gift that my dad gave to me, and you explain, this is fucking power to me. That I can feel. This power I can understand. And so do you with the gift that your dad giving you and being operating at your highest standard. That's power. And the new story is thank you, Dad.
Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Dad, for the gift you gave me. Thank you, Dad, for the everything. Thank you for my life. Thank you for my passion. Thank you for the sacrifice. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I feel that, Sam. Like, I feel like the one thing that's resonating is, like, where else am I fucking lying and not speaking the 100% truth in all areas in my life? What am I still lying to myself about right now? And I feel like that's the gift that showed up tonight. And I don't want to be full of shit in anywhere. I don't want to be full of shit anywhere. And I want to work and live at that fucking level every single day. So I drive and I do not let my standard down. And thank you for that gift of reminder. Awaken and remember.
Awaken and remember.
Awaken and remember. Beautiful.
What a fucking awesome show. What an awesome fucking conversation. I mean, I feel good, and I feel empowered, and I feel on fire. It's 9 at night here, and I feel like I can go for another 48 hours just fucking producing. And that's the power that I'm talking about. So I wanna thank you for being on your show.
Thank you, Coach.
Because this is your show at the end of the day. This is not my fucking show. This is your show. This is your room. This is the place where you drop reality. And I want to thank Dr. Troy for being here with us in spirit, that opened the energy and the time and the space for us to share this and hopefully have an impact on those of you that are watching and listening. For those of you that are interested in downloading the podcast, you can do that on iTunes by typing in Warrior Week, Google, and Stitchers, and as well as by going to warriorweeknow.com to download this episode and as well as other episodes that we refer to and other pictures and transcript of the show. And if there's anything that has touched you during this show, if there's any conversation that has impacted you, and it could have been just one word, one sentence, or you could have just caught a conversation that actually impacted you. My request to you is pass it forward. Share it. Share it with other men. At least share with them that they can actually listen to this conversation and allow them to be the judge of their own truth. I thank you for being a listener. I thank you for being a watcher on this show. I thank you, Troy. Thank you, Dr. Troy, for being here in spirit. And gentlemen, have yourself a great night.